if I lay me down a while, if I lay me down a while, soon I will be free. To be free is to know that everything around you returns to the rolling sea.
So, you've just heard the clips. We're actually joined by Dan Sherratt, who's the person who recorded the music. So, I wanted to ask him a little bit about the recording process and mainly how he felt the mics performed. You know, what would they actually like to use?
My initial reaction to open it was I was very impressed. I like ribbon microphones. We lean in my productions, and you know, I pretty much produce exclusively for Long Lost Son to a kind of more of a vintage sort of tone. So having a ribbon, we use a lot of ribbon microphones. Let's put it that way. And being able to have a single source, you know, just a single microphone to capture pretty much every level is amazing. So the initial reaction was pretty surprising. I mean, having that clear top end made me realize I actually could use this on a wider variety of sources, including acoustic guitar. So, you know, once I'd got it out of the box and, you know, unscrewed the shock mount, the internal shock mount, which is a pretty amazing touch.
The travel pin thing.
Yeah, exactly. Drums was the first thing I really wanted to record it on. That's how I usually start the session. We track drums alongside either a guitar or piano or a guide vocal or something. And because I'm not really a drummer, I like to sort of get that part out of the way. So I was sort of, you know, with the headphones on, maneuvering it around, you know, tapping some cymbals, tapping some snares and kick drum, and realizing it actually picked up a lot of the overall sound of the kit. So yeah, no, my initial reaction was just like, I'm going to enjoy this. Oh yeah.
Well, tell me about that thing you were saying about the off-axis projections. You were actually using that as you have used that as a sort of a tool, basically.
Yeah, the figure of 8 pattern on ribbons and with the NTR specifically is part of the strength of a ribbon microphone, and is part of the strength of the NTR actually, because the off-axis response the off-axis rejection, I should say, is absolutely magical. So, like I say, we try to track as live as possible. We try to get some, you know, instruments down there and then in the room, because that's where you get a bit of a performance. And when positioning the ribbons either on the drum kit or in front of a guitar cab, you know, we can actually put other instruments out the way, and you avoid phase. Also, like when because we work in a big room, if you're picking up other instruments in the microphone, actually expands the size of the room, because you're getting, you know, the delayed signal response from a guitar cab or a bass or a vocal that's further away than you are. You don't have as much control over the space as you'd like. So using the off-axis rejection, especially with the NTR, means that we can track a good performance without having any kind of sonic compromises, which is brilliant. Yeah, which I really, really liked about it.
And it's also that thing, you can literally position musicians 90 degrees from, you know, away from the mic, and it is silent. It's nuts.
It's insane. Yeah, it's actually insane. Yeah, with this microphone, it's pretty nuts. Yeah.
So tell me about this session then. So how are you using it in each of those scenarios?
So it was like the reason the session came to be in the first place was it was a new song, and we kind of wanted to get it down as a scratch idea more than anything else, and the opportunity to, you know, use these microphones came about, and I'd wanted to use ribbons heavily on a production before, so we genuinely wanted to try and record as much as possible with ribbon microphones, and so this was the kind of first opportunity, first successful opportunity that, you know, that's happened on. So we used it on the drum overheads, so that's in what they call recorder man technique. I think it's a sort of hybrid recorder man technique, which is I measure the distance from the center of the kick drum and the center of the snare with a piece of string, and then I position that over the top of the hi-hat snare, and then I kind of move the string, and wherever the point, you know, the triangle of the string comes together, is going to be in phase with the second microphone, which is usually off to the right over the drummer's shoulder, kind of looking at the snare drum and the kick drum. And that way you get a very centered kick and snare drum sound. Very centered kick and snare drum sound, but it being very stereo, which is what I like. And in that respect, the drum sound is kind of like 75% overheads. I added maybe a little bit of treble in tracking actually, because it goes through like an EQ preamp, just to kind of bring out a little bit of sparkle. I do that on dynamics or any kind of overhead anyway. And a little bit of bass cut because I want to augment it obviously with a kick mic and a snare mic, and that's it. There's no really more than 4 microphones on the drum kit.
Simple.
Because I want more of the stereo ribbon sound. It's 75%, 80% what you hear in the finished track is just the overheads there, because I want a bit more of a roomier kind of sound. With the electric guitar cab, it's worth experimenting a little bit. Sometimes if I want a bit more of a roomier sound, I can put the microphone, a few feet out into the room. Or if you want something that's a bit more full-bodied, want to work with the proximity effect, then having it a bit closer up. And I think in this respect, I had it quite close to the center of the speaker cone. And yeah, I'm so impressed. I'm really impressed with the NTR in that respect, because I don't really have to augment it with a second microphone. The recording speaks for itself. It's got a very, very, very full-bodied tone, especially on clean guitars, and on experimenting with a bit of dirty distorted guitar as well. That worked absolutely fine. And the actual body and tonality of the ribbon on that respect, without having to EQ it too much or mess with it in any way. You really want to try and capture as honest a sound to what you're getting in the room, and the NTR has been absolutely ideal for that. And it's going to be my go-to kind of cab mic from now on, definitely.
I was reading a review of it. Someone was saying the exact same thing. It's like I put it on a cab and it just sounded like the cab in the room.
Exactly. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
What about for piano as well? You had a kind of spaced pair.
So with the piano, I like grand pianos. They kind of chuck sound off in depending on the piano really. I mean, there's tried and tested methods, and the best way to do it is to try and get a single microphone that captures the overall sort of the best sound in one microphone, with its on axis to the piano, and then use the second microphone to augment that. So I think I had a microphone that's looking. In this scenario, I had the 2 microphones quite high up and like looking down at the strings and within the level of the soundboard. So the sound that's projecting and bouncing off the soundboard and coming out is going straight towards the microphones. There's no kind of off axis kind of working with proximity or anything. It's straight into the microphone. And in the same respect as putting it in front of the guitar cab, putting it in front of the piano, you're hearing such an honest representation of what's coming off the piano. And grand pianos have got a really rich, longer sustain, more body because of all the wood that's in there, the longer strings and everything. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to capture that, and condenser microphones can be a little bit too, condenser microphones usually add a lot of their own thing, a lot of their own color, their own frequency response, and ribbons are usually a bit too dark to capture some of the attack and the brightness. But again, the tonality and frequency response of the NTR meant that I was getting what was coming out of the piano in the room was what you're hearing on the track there. Again, needed very little processing. It's bright enough without being too kind of 80s like Yamaha kind of brightness and stabby. But it's just like mellow and refined, which is kind of the sound I've been longing for a long time. And I've been actually using dynamics in that respect to try and get more of a kind of rounded sort of tone. Whereas this has got the extended high end for a ribbon and a really smooth kind of nice tone. That's worked really well. Another really good example of why this mic's kind of vastly superior over other ribbon microphones.
What about and then lastly was vocals, and it was just. That looked very simple. You were basically just sort of, almost a foot back. You kind of backed off a little and up, obviously, so the guy's sort of lifting his head a little just to kind of project. But I don't know if you have more thoughts about that.
Yeah, so with vocals, I use this you're hearing my voice through it now, and think you're speaking through one yourself. It's got like quite a classical sound to it, very dry, rich, kind of full-bodied sort of sound, which I really like. I wanted to use it on backing vocals and then work with proximity, because I want to place the backing vocals in the mix at the source. And using a condenser microphone in that respect usually brings the vocals too far forward. So I used the NTR like a foot or so back to eliminate some of the proximity effect, to take out some of the bottom end, and that, and then also you get a bit of distance physically from the microphone. It actually gives you a bit of distance within the stereo field. So for backing vocals, that actually put them right where I wanted them to be, and give me a really give me room to work with them in the mix without having to EQ out any bottom end or artificially reverb them or anything. And that way they supported the main vocal really well, and they've just got, again, like a wonderfully honest tonality to them, which works in the context. I mean, I'd even go and use them on main vocals, but I think with this mix and this recording, I wanted a very present vocal sound, very, very, very upfront, which is what you could do with a condenser microphone, probably quicker. But again, I'd probably wouldn't hesitate to use this on a lead vocal for a number of different styles and genres. So yeah, in a nutshell, the NTR is pretty amazing. You're getting all the desirable characteristics of a ribbon microphone, but with the extended frequency response that I was talking about earlier. So as a result, I'm going to continue to use it on drum overheads, where I want a nice balanced sound. Piano, as you've heard, is very honest, captures the true essence of the instrument. Guitar cabs, like I say, my go-to microphone for that, because what you're getting out of the cab is what the microphone is capturing very honestly. And I'd even extend that from what I know now to take it to things like string quartets, or any way you need the kind of detail and smooth top end without it being overly dark or overly bassy.